Session Chairman CA Venkat Dhanyam Raju Garu, Secretary Sikasa, Vice Chairman Pavan, Treasurer Krishna Chaitanya, and my dear student friends, good evening to all. This is a golden opportunity to all the students to present your skills and improve your skills. In this scenario, even our ICAI head office also conducting series of seminars represented by representing their students at different levels. Even in the last sessions, we have also conducted a session competition for the Visakhapatnam branch students and quiz competition for the Visakhapatnam branch students for their benefit and to develop their soft skills. Among the branch level, we two participants are selected for regional level, and at the regional level, we are happy to say that one of our student, she was also selected for the head office level.
Nationals.
4 members from southern region. Now today, it is a session taken care by the Venkat Dhanyam Raju Garu as a session chairman, and session in the first half, Mr. Pavan Sai Kintali is doing his final year and is given examination. He is going to give the presentation, seminar on transfer pricing. Like transfer pricing is playing a crucial role when there is a requirement of transparency between the two interrelated units, and to know the exact pricing of in the income tax purview based on the two units related to one company. There are the different methods to find out all these things. These are all we going to learn in the session. I request other students also to come forward and participate like Pavan Sai, so that you people will going to develop your soft skills, which is very much required in future once you completed your chartered accountancy course. Now I request Treasurer to introduce Venkat Dhanyam Raju, Session Chairman, to the August gathering.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. CA Venkat Dhanyam Raju is a qualified chartered accountant. He is a qualified company secretary from the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. He is also a qualified cost accountant who got 3rd rank in his final exam. He completed his MBA from
Can you ask others to keep it on mute because a lot of disturbance coming?
I'm working on it, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Muting all the ones was talking at some other noises are coming.
Okay.
Krishna, please go ahead.
He has extensive skills in ERP, goods and service tax, taxation and finance. He worked as article assistant in Sheraton Associates. He also worked as manager for finance and taxation in India Insurance Risk Management and Insurance Broking Services Private Limited. He worked as manager for finance and accounts in Unisys India Private Limited. He worked as an associate chartered accountant in Sheraton Associates, after which he worked as senior manager for finance and accounts in Harsco India Services Private Limited. After, he became one of the partners in Sheraton Associates, after which he became Chief Financial Officer for Sonix Consulting Services Private Limited, and currently he is working as Chief Finance Officer for Andhra Pradesh Medtech Zone Limited. He has a strong understanding of accounting and financial principles, processes and practices, superb organizational, project management and process improvement skills, experience of preparing management accounts, computer literate and highly proficient in the use of MS Excel. With these few words, I would like to invite CA Venkat Dhanyam Raju to this August gathering. Thank you.
Chaitanya. Now the session will go in like this. First half an hour will be taken care of by the Pawan Sai. Next, our session chairman is going to deliberate his deliberations. So I request Pawan Sai, who is a final student and given his final examination, please go ahead with your seminar presentation.
Respected Chairman of the branch, CA Molikrishna Garu, and SICASA Chairman Prashant Sir, and the session Chairman CA Venkat Thanimraj Garu, and the members who have attended the session. A very good evening to everyone. And this is Pawan Sai Kintuli, a CA final student, and I have given my attempt in July 21. Today I am here to discuss the concept of transfer pricing in relation to international taxation. Let us have a discussion regarding the transfer pricing.
Are you sharing any presentation, PPT?
Yes, sir. But
Okay.
I have not been able with that feature.
You have not been?
Able with the feature of screen sharing, sir.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I am enabling you.
Okay.
Try it now, Pawan.
Yeah.
I think we could get that option.
Everyone see the screen?
Yes, Pawan, you can query.
Yes. The topic that I am going to discuss is transfer pricing in relation to international taxation. In the present commercial globalization scenario, the transfer pricing plays a crucial role where MNCs have been introduced vastly all over the world. MNCs contain branches, divisions, and some other divisions, and they include transfer of goods and services between two branches and two interrelated units, where divisions and units try to what we call try to reduce the income and increase the income but reduce the tax burden, where the government of those two nations lose tax revenue due to these loopholes enjoyed by these type of MNCs. So the concept of transfer pricing has been introduced with a view to curb those practices, where transfer pricing is based on the fundamental principle called arm's length price. Let us have an understanding about what is an arm's length principle. Arm's length price is a price at which the transaction takes place between two parties who are unrelated and are independent with each other, where the transaction is of commercial substance. However, as per section 92 of the Income Tax Act, transfer pricing is based on the principle of arm's length price, and it covers all the aspects such as income, expenditure, interest, allocation cost, and in relation to an international transaction or some specified domestic transactions. It not only covers interest, income, but also loans. Let us have an understanding about the meaning called associate enterprises. As per section 92A, two or more enterprises are said to be associate enterprises if at any time during the previous year they have been satisfied the following prescribed conditions. They are as follows. One enterprise holds 26% or more of the voting power either directly or indirectly in the other enterprise, or one person or enterprise holds 26% or more of voting power in one enterprise.
Pawan, can you be a bit slow? Because
Yeah, okay, sir.
and also I want to also you to tell me what is an international transaction, and before going to transfer pricing, can you please elaborate what is an international transaction?
Yeah, okay, sir. It is in the next slide. I'm going to.
Okay, fine. Go ahead. Go ahead. A bit slow.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Yeah.
Two enterprises will be called an associate enterprises if at any time they have been satisfied the following conditions. For example, a company called X Limited and there is an associate enterprise called Y Limited. X and Y said to be associate enterprises when X Limited holds 26% or more of voting power in Y Limited or Y Limited vice versa. Or in the other instance, coming to next example, for example, a person X holds 26% or more of shareholding in company Y and Z. In that case, company X, Y, and Z will be associate enterprises with the only one reason that Mr. X holds 26% or more shareholding in both these companies. And when it also includes not only the voting power but also control over the enterprise also. And coming to the next thing, where an enterprise advance loan for an amount of 51% or more of the total assets of the other enterprise. In that case, the two enterprises are said to be associate enterprises. And where one enterprise grants 10% or more of the borrowings guarantee to the total borrowings of the other enterprise. In that sense, for example, company X Limited guarantees borrowings for an amount of 50 lakhs rupees to company Y Limited, where the total of the loans of company Y Limited are 40 crores. No, not the 40 crores. It's about, for example, 70 crores. In that case, X Limited has guaranteed more than 10% of the total borrowings of Y Limited. In that case, X and Y Limited are said to be associate enterprises. And coming to the other clauses, where one enterprise also controls the board of directors or the governing board of the other enterprise. In that case, they are also said to be associate enterprises. And more than half of the board of directors of the other enterprise is controlled by the first enterprise. For example, X Limited controls the governing board of Y Limited, then X Limited and Y Limited are said to be associate enterprises as per section 92A. And where one enterprise depends upon the raw material, it means like a sole agent. It means it has to purchase 90% or more of the raw materials which is required for the manufacture of the article or product that is being manufactured by that enterprise. In that case, the two enterprises will be said to be associate enterprises because of the reason called one enterprise is wholly dependent on the raw material which is being supplied by the other. And coming to the next thing, it is about where one enterprise depends upon the intangible assets of the other enterprise, which is fully dependent for the manufacturing of those products which is manufactured by the first enterprise. In that case, these two enterprises are said to be associate enterprises. Coming to another example, for example, Ms. X Limited is controlled by a person called Y, and Y Limited is controlled by a person called Z, and X and Z are relatives. In that case, Y Limited and Z Limited will be said to be as associate enterprises. It means that one enterprise will be controlled by one person and the other enterprise is controlled by the relative of the first person which is controlling the first entity. And coming to the next thing, where one enterprise holds more than 10% of the voting power or profit sharing ratio in the other enterprise. For example, in the case of firms, associates, associate of persons and body of individuals. And other means as may be prescribed by the board for the time being in force. Coming to the meaning of international transaction, a transaction between two associate enterprises will be said to be an international transaction where there exists one non-resident in the transaction. It can be said that, for example, X Limited and Y Limited are two associate enterprises when X Limited or Y Limited is one party is a non-resident. In that case, the transaction between these two enterprises will be said to be an international transaction. In the same way, transaction between two residents cannot be considered as international transaction because neither of the party is a non-resident. And coming to another example, transaction between two non-residents can also be considered as an international transaction, specifying that one condition that the non-resident income of one of the non-resident is taxable in India as per the income tax act. In that case, these two parties will be considered as associate enterprises, and the transaction between these two parties will be considered to be deemed international transactions as specified in the note of section 92B. And there have been, as per section 92C, there have been few methods have been specified for computation of arm's length price. They have been as follows.
Pawan, can you come to the previous slide?
Yes,
Can
sir.
you explain the last paragraph?
Okay, then. Transaction
sure.
between. Okay, sir. It's coming to the. It is about deemed international transaction. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, I'm disturbed with some noise from the participant portal.
I request all participants to be on mute unless required.
Okay, I'm continuing with the topic. It is about a deemed international transaction. For example, a transaction between two unrelated enterprises can also be sometimes considered to be sometimes to be considered as a related party transaction. When, for example, X Limited is one enterprise and Y Limited is another enterprise, both these parties are not related to each other, but the transaction between X Limited and Y Limited will be considered to be a deemed international transaction when the terms of this contract between X Limited and Y Limited have been already specified by the other enterprise called Z Limited, which is an associate enterprise of X Limited. In that case, the transaction between X Limited and Y Limited shall be considered as an deemed international transaction because of the reason that Y Limited has specified the terms and entered into a prior agreement regarding this transaction with the unrelated enterprise. It is about the last paragraph. And there have been methods specified for computation of arm's length price, such as comparable uncontrolled price method, resale price method, cost plus method, profit split method, and transactional net margin method. An SSE has to choose among these 5 methods, which is more appropriate for the computation of arm's length price. It depends and varies from case to case, and SE has to be prudent in selection of these methods for computation of arm's length price. Let us have an understanding about each and every method with an example also. Coming to the comparable uncontrolled price method. Under this method, the transaction between two associate enterprises shall be computed on the basis of the price between two uncontrolled and two independent parties, and adjustment has required to be made to that transaction. For example, X Limited sold goods to Y Limited for a price of 100 rupees, and the same goods have been sold by X Limited to a party called Z Limited for 80 rupees. In that case, the arm's length price will be 80 rupees because the price which has been charged to the unrelated party or independent party is said to be an arm's length price, and it will be considered as for the purpose of transfer pricing and for the valuation and for computation of income and determination of tax. And adjustments are required to be made to the uncontrolled price which has been obtained in this transaction. For example, it is 80, but the goods have been sold by X Limited to Y Limited with the provision of warranty, which cost 20 rupees, and the same goods have been sold to an independent enterprise at 80 rupees, but which does not include the provision of warranty of 80 rupees. This amount has to be adjusted in order to compute a correct uncontrolled price. And coming to the next method, it is about resale price method. This method will be most appropriate only when the enterprise which is receiving the goods or services resells those goods to an unrelated or independent party. For example, A Limited sells goods to B Limited, and B Limited sells those goods to a party called C Limited, which is an unrelated enterprise. In this case, the price at which the goods have been sold by B Limited to an unrelated or an independent party will be considered first, and adjustments are required to be made to arrive at the arm's length price. The following of the adjustments are required to be made. For example, A Limited sold goods to B Limited at a price of 100 rupees. We're arriving at that price. For example, B Limited sold his goods to an unrelated party at 100 rupees, including a profit of 20 rupees. In that case, those 20 rupees has to be reduced from those resale price to arrive at the arm's length price. In this case, the arm's length price will be 100 minus 20 rupees, which comes at 80. This will be the arm's length price between for the transaction between A Limited and B Limited. In that way, various adjustments are required to be made. In this example, I have discussed you about the gross profit margin adjustment. Various other expenses which have been incurred in connection to the purchase is also required to be measured. This is an example. This can also be considered as an example of backward calculation. And coming to the next method, cost-plus method. This method is considered to be the simple and easiest way to compute the arm's length price. Under this method, the total direct and indirect costs that have been incurred by one enterprise for the goods or services rendered shall be arrived first, and the profit margin which will be charged for an unrelated or uncontrolled transaction. For example, A Limited had sold goods to C Limited, but the transaction price is unknown. But the total cost incurred for this goods is arrived at 60 rupees, and the profit margin that will be charged by A Limited to an independent party will be 10%. In this case, the total cost is 60 rupees and the uncontrolled gross profit margin is 10%. Therefore, the cost has to be included with the profit of 6 rupees, which is 10% of 60, and 66 rupees will be considered as the transaction arm's length price in this case. This is how we compute transaction the arm's length price as per cost-plus method. And coming to the profit split method, this method is more appropriate in the case of joint arrangements between associate enterprises. Under this method, total profit earned by the associate enterprises is first arrived, and this total profit arrived by the total group will be distributed among the enterprises which have been involved in the joint venture on a proportionate basis. It may be on the basis of contribution made in the form of risk assumed, capital employed, and work performed. In this way, the total profit will be divided among the associate enterprises, and the same will be added to the cost incurred by the associate enterprises. And there is a link between the profit split method and the cost-plus method. In the profit split method, will be used to segregate the total profit among the associate enterprises, and the total profit which is related to the individual associate enterprises will be added to the total cost incurred by those enterprises, and the total cost plus profit will be considered as arm's length price as per profit split method. And coming to the net transaction and net margin method. Under this method, there will be a comparison made between the normal profit margin charged by the industry participants with the profit margin charged by the associate enterprises for the transaction made between the other associate enterprises. For example, the industry net profit margin for the same transaction with an unrelated independent party is say 20%, and the profit margin charged by one associate enterprise with the other is said to be 5%. In this case, there is a variance of 5%, which cannot be considered as an arm's length price. So the arm's length price will be on the basis of the 10% gross profit margin, which is actually earned by the industry participants. In the same way, the profit margin will be added to the total cost incurred by the associate enterprise to arrive at the net arm's length price as per transactional net margin method. And coming to the next case, as per section 92CA, there may be instances of various issues between the assessing officer and the assessee regarding valuation method and the transfer price chosen on the assumption on which the arm's length principle is based. In that case, the assessing officer may also refer the case to the transfer pricing officer for determining the transfer price as per arm's length principle. In this case, the assessee has to bound by the order of the TPO and the assessing officer also. Before making reference to the TPO, the assessing officer has to take the prior approval of principal commissioner or commissioner of income tax to refer the case to the transfer pricing officer. The transfer pricing officer has to pass his order by taking into various evidence that have been obtained in the particular case, which varies from case to case. before 60 days to the last date of completion of assessment as per section 153 and 153B. And the order of the TPO which is binding on the assessing officer and also on the assessee. While obtaining the evidence by the TPO, the TPO has to serve a notice to the assessee to obtain information and to arrive at the correct transaction, to arrive at the correct transfer price. And coming to the next thing, section 92D, this specifies the records to be maintained by the persons involved in specified domestic transactions and international transactions. Therefore, the assessees dealing in international transactions and specified domestic transactions are required to be maintained documents as specified by the CBDT and records that are required for making the AO to complete this assessment in an easy and transparent way. And coming to the next thing, the assessing officer, the following documents are required to be maintained for a period of 8 years from the relevant assessment year, and the assessees involving dealing in international transactions for an amount exceeding 1 crore are only required to be maintained documents as specified by the CBDT. Not all assessees are required to maintain documents as per section 92D. Only the assessees dealing in international transactions for a value exceeding 1 crore during the previous year are required to be maintained the specified documents. And the documents which are maintained by the assessees are to be submitted on the receipt of notice by the AO during any proceedings, and a further extension of 30 days can also be granted for the submission of details to the assessing officer. And as per section 92E, a report of a chartered accountant is required to be submitted by the assessee dealing in international transactions in form 3CEB on or before 31st October of the relevant assessment year. And coming to the interesting topic of the transfer pricing called advance pricing agreement. Section 92CC and section 92CD deals with the concept of advance pricing arrangement. This agreement will be entered by the taxpayer and by the CBDT to resolve the issues regarding the international transactions and to arrive at the transfer price and to choose the appropriate methodology for arriving transfer pricing. This will be entered prior to the entering into the international transactions, which will be clearly specified in the name called advance pricing. And the advance pricing agreement includes the manner in which the transaction price has to be arrived on the basis of arm's length principle. And it may also include the methods that have been specified under section 92C also. In some cases, the CBDT may also develop a new method which particularly suits to the assessee and to arrive at the correct transfer price as per the section 92C also. And the advance pricing agreement can be entered to a maximum period of 5 years. That is, the advance pricing agreement can be entered for a period of 1, 2, 3, 4, but not for 6 years. Simply, the advance pricing arrangement specifies that the way in which transfer pricing has to be arrived and the particular transfer pricing method that has to be chosen for arriving the transaction price. And the advance pricing agreement is binding on the assessee, and on the assessing officer also. And the advance pricing agreement will not be binding when there is a change in facts or change in circumstances on the basis of which the advance pricing agreement has been entered prior. There are few instances in which the advance pricing agreement can be declared as void ab initio by the department or by the board. For example, the advance pricing agreement has been entered by the assessee by submitting false information or misrepresentation of facts. In that case, the board has the power to pass an order declaring the advance pricing agreement as void ab initio with the prior approval of the central government. In that case, the advance pricing agreement will be terminated, and all the transactions are governed by the Income Tax Act, which is on the basis of assumption called the advance pricing agreement has not been entered earlier, and all the provisions of Income Tax Act shall be applicable on the transaction between the associate enterprises. And there has been a provision included in the advance pricing agreement, which says about the rollback provision. Rollback provision in the sense the advance pricing agreement which have been entered by the SSC and the CBDT is actually for the future years, that for the future previous years. But there is a provision included about rollback provision in the sense the advance pricing agreement can be retrospectively applied for the preceding previous years for a maximum period of 4 years preceding the first previous year in which the advance pricing agreement has been entered. And the conditions under which the advance rollback provisions can be applied to the preceding previous years are as follows. And this transaction, the international transaction is same as that of the international transactions that have been entered on which the advance pricing agreement is entered. In the sense, for example, the transactions that have been included in the advance pricing agreement are related to some transactions called, for example, sale of goods. For the rollback provisions to be applicable for the preceding previous years also, the same type of goods of similar nature are required to be sold. For a summary to be said regarding this, the international transaction should be same as that of the international transaction to which the advance pricing agreement has been entered. And for the applicability of rollback provisions, the return of income for the preceding previous years are required to be filed on or before the due date specified in section 139 subsection 1. And the report of the chartered accountant in form 3CEB as per section 92E has also been submitted on or before the due date as mentioned in the section 92E. And for the rollback provisions to be applicable on the preceding previous years, the SSC has to make an application to the department in form 3CED-A. In some cases, the rollback provisions cannot be applied for the preceding previous years. There are 2 instances under which the rollback provisions cannot be applied. For example, the transaction has been a subject matter of an appeal before the appellate tribunal, and the appellate tribunal has already passed an order before signing of this agreement. For example, the advance pricing agreement has been entered for sale of some goods called X. Before the appellate tribunal regarding the transfer price to be arrived with that transaction, and the order of the tribunal has also been passed. In that case, the rollback provisions cannot be applied to the particular transaction because the subject matter, it has been a subject matter before the tribunal, and the order has also been passed by the tribunal regarding it. And rollback provisions cannot be made applicable to the preceding previous years, where applicability of this advance pricing agreement provisions reduces the income of the SSC as per the return of income or increases the losses. It means advance pricing agreement will be made applicable only to those cases which increases the total income of the SSC or reduces the losses of the SSC. In that case, the total impact will be the total increase in income of the SSC. And coming to section 92 CD, which specifies the effects of the advance pricing agreement. For example, an SSC has entered into an advance pricing agreement with the department. In that case, he has to do the following things. For example, he has filed the returns for the preceding previous years. For those years which has for which returns have been filed, he has to file a modified return within 3 months from the end of the month in which the advance pricing agreement has been entered. There might be cases, for example, rollback provision to be made can also be made applicable to preceding years. For example, in that case, the return of the preceding previous years might have been filed already. In this case, he has to file a modified return within 3 months from the end of the month in which the advance pricing agreement has been entered. And for the return and for the previous years to which return of income has not been filed and the assessment is required to be made. In that case, the assessing officer has to complete the assessment as per the advance pricing agreement, and an additional period of 1 year will be given for the completion of assessment for the particular previous year. And when there is a difference between the actual transaction price and the transfer price as per arm's length principle, the difference has to be included in the income of the SSC. That difference, that adding of income or reduction of losses is said to be primary adjustment. For example, P Limited and Q Limited has entered into a transaction where P Limited sells goods to Q Limited at a price of 500 rupees, which is the actual transaction price, but the actual arm's length price for that transaction is 1000 rupees. In that case, the primary adjustment is required to be made for a rupees of 500 rupees, which is to be included in the income of P Limited. The amount of 5 rupees that were added to the total income of P Limited is called a primary adjustment. And coming to the secondary adjustment, while we are including the difference between the arm's length price and the actual transaction price, the excess money, it is called as an excess money. The excess money will be included in the income of the SSC, but the same money has not been brought back by the SSC. That is, actually the goods have been sold at 500 rupees, but we have included 1000 rupees in the income of the SSC. Only P Limited has received 500 rupees from Q Limited, but the remaining 500 rupees is not yet been brought back by the P Limited. In that case, it is considered as that the P Limited has granted a loan to Q Limited for an amount of 500 rupees. And an interest income will be added to the total income of P Limited every year, and this adding of interest income to the income of P Limited is considered as secondary adjustment. And the period for which the interest is to be included and the date at which interest is to be included has been specified here. And you can find in that case, we have discussed regarding the excess money which has to be bought back by P Limited. In our example, it is about 500 rupees. Therefore, P Limited has to get back those 500 rupees within 90 days from the specified dates, which varies from case to case. For example, if the primary adjustment is made as a result of order of the assessing officer or the appellate authority, P Limited has to get back those excess money within 90 days from the date of the said order, which has been passed with the assessing officer or the appellate authority. And when the primary adjustment is as a result of advance pricing agreement, advance pricing agreement can also be applied for previous years and for the coming years. The due dates for which the amount has to be brought back varies from case to case in case of advance pricing arrangement. You can see on the slide that if the advance pricing agreement has been entered into on or before the due date of filing of return of income for the relevant previous years, it means it is specifying regarding the future years for which the advance pricing agreement has to be applied. In that case, the associate enterprise has to get back those excess money within 90 days from the due date of filing of return for the relevant previous year. And in the second point, you can see that if the advance pricing agreement has been entered into on or after the due date of filing of return, it is a case of applicability of rollback provisions to the preceding years, for which the return has already been filed and the assessment has already been done or not been done by the assessing officer. In that case, the associate enterprise has to get back the excess money within 90 days from the end of the month in which the advance pricing has been entered into. In this case, he has to get back the money within 90 days from the end of the month, from the date on which the advance pricing agreement has been entered. And coming to the case of primary adjustment, by resolution arrived a mutual agreement procedure under DTWA. DTWA has will also include the transaction price that has to be taken. There might be a provision between the two countries in DTWA to conclude the transfer price between on the transaction between the enterprises. In that case, the excess money has to be brought back from within 90 days from the date of giving effect to that mutual agreement procedure. And if the primary adjustment due to any other reason specified above, the amount has to be get back within 90 days from the due date of return under section 139. And we have been talking about the interest income which has to be added to the total income of the SEC if the same has been not get back within the due date specified here. And in the case where the order secondary adjustment, in the cases where the primary adjustment is as a result of order of the assessing officer. Here the period of interest that we need to include will be will be starting from the date on which the said order has been passed till and it continues till the date on which the excess money has been repatriated back to India. And in the cases where primary adjustment as a result of advance pricing agreement, it commences from the due date of filing of return and ends with the actual date of repatriation. And in the second case, it commences from the end of the month in which the advance pricing agreement has been entered. And for any other cases, the amount of period that will be included from the date starting from the date of filing of return on section 139. And we have been talking about the interest income to be included, but we have not been discussed about the rate at which it has to be included. Now we are going to that. Here is the rate of interest that has to be included as a part of income. Where the interest transaction is denominated in Indian rupees, the rate of interest shall be the rate on 1st April of the relevant previous year of lending rate of SBI plus 3.25%. For example, the interest income to be included for the previous year is 1920. In that case, the SBI lending rate as on 1st April 2019 will be considered, and 3.25% will be added to that, and the same will be included as part of income in the form of interest of the SSC. And where the international transaction is denominated in other than Indian rupee, and simply the international transaction is the foreign currency. In that case, the rate of interest will be the rate on 30th September, LIBOR plus 3%, on 6 months LIBOR rate on 30th September of relevant previous year. In our example, for the previous year 1920, if the transaction has been denominated in foreign currency, then the applicable interest rate shall be the LIBOR rate on 30th September, 6 months LIBOR rate on 30th September plus 3%. For example, it might be 10%. In that case, the total interest to be charged will be 13% for the whole year. And there are few cases where the primary adjustment, secondary adjustment is not required to be made. They are as follows: where the primary adjustment is involving an amount not exceeding 1 crore, and where the primary adjustment is relating to the assessment year 16-17 or earlier assessment year. Coming to a summary of non-requirement of secondary adjustment, the secondary adjustment is required to be made only in the cases where the primary adjustment exceeds 1 crore rupees, and it is for the assessment years 17-18 onwards. And there has been option made available to the SSC, who have not bought and who have not repatriated the excess money within the set time limit and don't want to include the interest income in their incomes every year. Therefore, for those SSCs, the department have made an option available to the SSC to pay tax on such excess money, which makes seizes the interest income to include in the total income of the SSC. For example, P Limited has to bought back a rupees of 500 rupees, 500 rupees within the said 90 days, but it has failed to get back it, and it has been included in income of for 3 years. The interest income has been included for 3 years. Now, P Limited don't want to include the income of interest income. In that case, P Limited can choose this option and pay tax on such excess money which has not been repatriated back. Here, the tax rate specified is 18% plus compulsory surcharge at the rate of 12%, and health and education tax at the rate of 14%, which comes to 20.9664%. Therefore, from the date of payment of this tax, the interest income shall not be included in the SSC as a part of secondary adjustment. Here is the conclusion of the transfer pricing topic. People having queries can ask, and I will be able to answer you. Any questions from the participants?
Are you done? Is there any other slide left?
Yes, sir. Concluding the presentation, thank you for the opportunity provided by the Visakhapatnam branch of SARC
Fine. Can we,
Continue.
yeah. Can we come back to the normal mode?
Yeah, okay, sir.
Yes. And first of all, I just want to know, anyone want to ask any questions to Pawan before I start asking him? But who is Mr. CRK here in the group? Who's sending some options test to me? I don't know.
There has been a doubt asked from Hussein.
No, not that. He sent something called, he's calling me some Baba. I don't know who is this guy. I never met anybody. Maybe he's wrongly sent to me instead of sending to someone else.
It might be happen like that. Side said wrongly sent to you.
Okay. Fine. I just, first of all, next 5 minutes, I open to the participant to ask any question to Mr. Pawan before I start talking to him and talking to you all. Anyone? There's so many listeners. No one?
Hope everybody got clear their doubts with this presentation.
Is this Bhargav Patro means the same Bhargav who was my ex-student? Bhargav? I think no one is interested in asking questions. Guys, remember, if a person came prepared and gave a presentation in front of all of you, first of all, we should need to give attention, and then at the same time, we also need to ask questions. If no questions, we should give an appreciation to that fellow that you did your best. I see session is open to all and no one is asking any question or no appreciation. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Shyam.
Yeah, sir. I don't have any question. I just want to appreciate the efforts of the Pawan.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay. Any other guys? Like there are so many. Surya, Sandeep, Ramesh, Bhaskar, Ganesh. No. First of all, then I'll start. Let me appreciate Pawan for your time and efforts in making the presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Right. But Pawan, few things I also want to tell you to improvise.
Yeah, okay.
Right. The first thing is, proper introduction to be given. See, what is international transfer pricing? Why it is important? You just told, but you are very fast.
Yes.
As an audience, I need time to sink in and then come back with my query. You nicely presented, very good presentation. I appreciate, because very few guys will actually take chances to do the homework, sit patiently, and then want to tell whatever they want to tell without any fear. Right? In that aspect, I give you 100% because you really did well, and keep it up, make it more and more, and then go and try wherever possible. But thing is, why transfer pricing is required? It is required because now the market is global and we are dealing with, companies across the globe.
Yes.
There are chances of tax practices to curb the income tax, which might cause a loss to the exchequer, right? So, but we cannot say every transaction, international transaction, because if I'm dealing with XYZ who are not known to me at all, so I don't have any possibility to influence them to reduce my income tax, right?
Yes, sir.
I can only influence those whom I can influence.
Yeah.
Those people comes under the category of AEs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Right? Those, see, AE means the party whom I can influence,
Yeah.
especially when it is a group company. What happened? The group plans in such a way that the tax on the overall group is lower. So they can design a transaction wherein they can show lesser income to high tax territories and lower income to no tax or low tax territories.
Yes.
And similarly, high expense to high tax territories and low expense to no tax or low tax territories. Though one country is paying the tax more, but it will be offset by the other country entity, so that as a group, the performance will be more into tax saving.
Yeah.
Which is not wrong, but it should not lead to lesser tax payment in the country of either residence or country of origin, because tax is based on either country of origin or country of residence, isn't it?
Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir.
So that point is important. And second point, what you missed is application of transfer pricing provisions should not result into reduction of the income or increasing of the loss.
Yes, sir.
Right? It is there in the PPT, but you didn't present it,
No, sir. I had told about it also.
or else you ran fast.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Suppose if the income tax provisions are beneficial than applying in, the provisions of transfer pricing, can SSC opt for income tax provisions?
No, sir. Actually, the transfer pricing provisions override the income tax act.
Definite. Good. Wherein if it is DTA, it is different.
Yeah.
If income tax provisions are beneficial, SSC can still opt income tax provision than the DTA.
Yeah. In case of DT and income tax provisions, we can opt whichever is beneficial.
Whichever is beneficial, not with transfer pricing, because transfer pricing is a part of the act itself. Right?
Yes.
And when you selected all the 5 methods, I expected a little examples also to be presented, because the examples what you are telling, there is no time to write and compare.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Small example, a small Excel, like comparable uncontrollable price is possible only when there is cup method is possible only when there is a similar international transaction with any other party.
Yeah, I thought of including them, but I thought that the slides will be increased to a big number.
Yes, give me 1 second. I'll just connect my charger. I think my charging is low. Just give me 1 second. 1 second. Yes, sorry for the interruption. Right? So cup method, you would have actually selected a small example where take the actual transaction plus or minus, plus or minus, there are certain things like the quantity discounts, isn't it? Warranties, right? The price must be adjusted for few things. Yes. Especially quantity discount and then warranties, right? And FOB and CAF differences. Got it? A little example would have been given much more clarity to the audience who are listening to the session, because not all may become prepared for cup. Right? Good. What I'm saying, I'm not criticizing. Take it as a constructive thing, right? Little things. And then while explaining the associate enterprises also, instead of long theory, you would have made a little graph, small graphs. Like one provision, what you said, if between 2 uncontrolled enterprises, still it can be a international transaction if there is a prior agreement existent with an AE. The uncontrolled party is already entered into an agreement with the AE, and instead of transacting with the AE, you are transacting with the uncontrolled enterprise, but the entire terms conditions were actually influenced by the AE. In such case also, it can be an international transaction. You got it?
Yes.
Right? So these things, if you can present in a simple way, that gives more and more clarity to the presentation. Good. There you said there are 5 methods, right? And any other method also possible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It may be designed as per the
That-
requirements.
That is called most appropriate method, right? That also was missing in this particular presentation.
Yeah, actually, I had covered it in the case where a case can be transferred to the TPO. The TPO can determine the method of which.
TPO is different, but any other. And suppose there are more than 4 ALPs available, what to do? That was missing.
Yes, sir. I thought
The
of
mean,
including
right?
it, but the benefit is
The 35-65 rule,
Yeah, I know. Benchmark,
Right.
sir.
right? That is also missing because that is very, very important. Sometimes the same transaction can be arrived under 3-4 different ALP methods.
Yes, I thought
In
of it
such
about
case-
the numerical. That's why I have included it.
No, you need not tell the entire sum. You can just tell that there is a method and this method should be computed based on this rule. And this rule says 35-65
Yeah.
rule. And then if it is within the range of 35-65, you can go with the actual transaction. If not, What is
Fifth
that?
possible sum.
yeah, that simple 4-5 lines of theory would have been given much more, because it is like the one who came to your presentation should take away home. The text is available everywhere, right? But what you give back to us is your own findings and your own presentation, which is clean, crispy, and can be taken away, like something called takeaway from the presentation. Yes? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, someone asked if the international transfer is in the nature of gift. See, why you should give a gift? Again, that is in different, complete perspective. We should see any transaction which affects your books, which affects the income of reporting enterprise in India, which reduces the income or increases the loss, should be given an effect as per ALP. Right? 1 second. Avinash, you raise the invoice? Then when it can happen? 1 second. Can you tell Gautam or Kanta to raise all the invoices on Monday and give it to me? Yes. Thank you. Sorry, guys. So that is also good. See that small, and then advanced pricing agreement is very good. You explained it is not only for future, it also can be rolled back, but rollback, who will do rollback? The SSC or the officer?
It is a option of SSC. It is a option of SSC.
It means rollback option should be there in the agreement itself.
Yeah.
If the agreement doesn't contain the rollback option, then it can't be possible.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it? That point did you stressed out?
But I had included in that an application is made in form CCG.
But until the agreement contains a provision for rollback cannot be taken. Right? Great. And the time limit, yes, you explained good. You would have given more stress. Time limit of 90 days shall be computed from which date to which date. There are various circumstances you gave. And one more thing, if the APA is taken by way of fraudulent information, false, misleading information, you rightly said that it was the income shall be computed as if there was no existence of the agreement, right? But you also need to tell, then what about the time limit for completion? By the time the time limit for completion of the year would have been gone, when the period beginning with APA and the period where the fraud was arrived, this entire period will be excluded from computing the time limit for completion of assessment. Yes or no? That point is also missed, right? Sorry, I'm a keen observer. It's not that I'm a great presenter, but I want to make sure that student when go and present, you will face these many questions. I fear even if I come to this particular session, I'll take out half an hour, 1 hour of my time and see, am I missing any recent provisions? Because I should not speak something wrong to you guys, right? And one more point I didn't found in transfer pricing is specified domestic transactions was not touched. that also be a part of a transfer pricing. I think the limit is 20 crores now. Yes, SDA,
Yes, sir.
92 BA,
Yes, sir.
right? And notified jurisdictional area topic, small topic was also missing in transfer pricing.
Sir, I haven't.
Hello?
I haven't. Sir.
No, 30 minutes you can do it. Instead of you taking more time on time limits, you can simply go through. But even in 30 minutes, if you want to cover the entire show, you make it more simple, crispy. Because see, none of the people were actually asking you questions. So you're safe. If I go with a professional, if the same is with qualified CA, the kind of questions we'll receive will die. People will ask questions and questions, either to prove them right or to prove you wrong, or genuinely they'll ask. There are three chances. You should be ready for it, right? So good way you presented these things like the arithmetical mean concept, more ALPs concept, and then 3565 rule, specified domestic transactions, NJA, multinational enterprises, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
These are all also very, very important, because NJA and multinational enterprises you cannot ignore these days. These are very, very, very important. And also furnishing the report in respect of international groups is also important. What I mean to say is, you would have made a small snapshot of these important things. You need not be elaborate. The problem is you took more time in elaborating the timelines. 10 minutes you were there at timelines. Have you observed it?
Yeah, I haven't noticed it.
That is actually not that important. You can take one example and say other will applicable. And you mentioned 153 and 153B. What are these things? You didn't tell.
It is about
Time limit for completion of assessments and time limit for completion of search and freezer cases. Can someone please close? Right, guys? Very good. I'm happy to be a part of your presentation. But what I want to tell you is, you have somebody muting me. Don't mute me. I'm talking. Host. See, you have talent. You pull information and try to make it in your way, instead of just giving the text what is there in the provision. You change it into your way. Like if you read books like Singhania or Mr. Manoharan, and these days I think Banwar Burana recently, what they do, after the text they'll make a small box, and that small box contains all the snapshots of the entire provision, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So presentation needs that, because you need to simple text no one will read, because text can be. Hello?
This is my first time of presentation.
Agree, super. See, did I criticize you?
No. I'm just saying.
And in fact, I was appreciating the efforts you made in presenting the PPT, and the efforts, and also give time to us to understand. Once you explain something, you ask, can I move ahead? And then you start.
Yeah.
Otherwise, these 4 or 5 points, what I thought you should add more. Rollback provision is for previous, not for future. Future is not rollback. Someone questioned me. Future, anyway, advanced pricing agreement is effective for the period maximum of 5 years. Correct me if I am wrong, Mr. Pawan. Rollback means going back. It is possible only if you file the returns during that period, and the transactions are similar transactions, or not even appealed, or and not there before any other authority under a proceeding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So rollback means it is for the previous assessment years, not to the future. Future is already there. Agreement is already there, applicable for the 5-year period, unless, again, that point I think you told or no, I don't know, unless there is a change in the law or change in the facts based on which the APA has been entered. Yes.
Yeah.
The APA stands dissolved stands invalid if there is a change in law or if there is any change in the facts and based on which the APA was entered. Clear?
Yes, sir.
But in that case, it will be cancelled only from that date, not from the beginning.
Yes, sir.
But wherein if it is misrepresentation of facts and false information, then from the beginning it will be totally null and void.
Yes, sir.
Clear? Right? Wonderful. I appreciate your efforts. And I also wish you a great success in your examination. And one more point, wait. Overriding effort you discussed, yes. Completion of assessment you discussed, yes. And just writing down points. And maintenance of documents, 8 years, right?
Yeah. 8 years from clearing the assessment.
Okay, good. Maintenance of documents. And also you told something about primary adjustment and secondary adjustment.
Yes, sir.
It need not be repatriated if the difference doesn't exceed 1 crore, right?
Yeah.
Is that point covered?
No, it's about secondary adjustment, sir.
Secondary, that's what.
Secondary adjustment.
Primary, if the primary difference doesn't exceed 1 crore, you need not do the secondary. You need not repatriate. And if not repatriate, you need not pay interest on that particular amount at the rate specified.
Yes, sir.
If you want to avoid interest, you should pay one-time tax at the rates given there, 18 plus 12 plus 4. 18 plus 12% surcharge plus 4% cess. It comes in at 20.9. Perfect. Good. I'm expecting someone else also to ask the questions because you're all youngsters with a lot of questions in your mind. And there is an expert sitting in front of you, Mr. Pavan. Ask him. Hello? Prashant Garu, any observations from your side?
Yeah, I congratulate Mr. Pavan Sai as you took the initiation to present a seminar on transfer pricing. But actually, it is a bit of a difficult topic while the student concern and the present scenario also. But you presented good. Slides preparation is good, but only as Venkat Dhanimraju sir saying, you would be little bit faster. That you have to at the end of the session change your way of presentation. It was good. Slowly it was molded into a good presentation. I appreciate it. And see, whatever our session chairman has given suggestions, it is only to mold you in better and best way to present yourself in the future. It is not at all it's in something else. The main aim to keep a member who is an expert in the transfer pricing and who can give better suggestions, and he's a very good student-based speaker. He can tell you, all the students how to present where you people are lacking behind, where you can fill the gaps, and you can present in a better manner, not in a better, in the best manner in future. So these are all the suggestions given by the Venkat Dhanimraju garu. It's very good. And you also, the subject what you have gathered and presented is good. So I congratulate you for taking initiation. And also I request other students come forward, give your names, give the topics and present, give your presentations. See, these are all like doing experiment on yourself. See, as Pavan came forward, given presentation, and he know that where he came to know that where are the gaps are there while he presenting. So once he came to know where is the gap, he's going to fill that one so that he can go into mold himself.
No, but if it is first attempt, it is an excellent presentation. I can tell you. If it is your first one, it is the best one. I think one more thing, safe harbor rules, though it is not there for 21-22, was missed out. I think AY 21 there is no safe harbor rules were actually modified. Yes, but still, you would have just given a slight knowledge on that to us because many people are laymen. You know, they want to know from you. But first attempt is best, really good. Just focus on your modulation and speed and more crispy things. Otherwise, Pavan, you're the best, and your beard is also looking good. Giving competition to me in beard.
Yeah, Pavan, you also prepare some other topics And in coming future, I want to see you as a best presenter in different topics from student side. I request all the students also to do the same. And I very much thankful to CA Venkat Vanyamaraj garu.
Thanks, Prashant.
No, it's a very good, very valuable suggestions were given to all the students. And as correctly said, the student should come up and ask the questions. It is not that something criticizing you. If you ask the questions, they will clear you. Like some Sashi also asked the questions. One or two guys asked the question, they cleared it. It's I appreciate those guys also. So you people come with this, and I request all the guys, you prepare some presentation which we will going to publish in our student magazine. So we every month we are publishing the student magazine also, where some of the students are coming with the different topics. So you people try to give some presentations also. So our Zikasa Vice Chairman, Mr. Pavan, please prepare one Google sheet and spread across our student community so that they can come up with their write-ups and presentations also. So
Guys, it is it is a best opportunity, because when we were studying, I am telling way back in 2001, I joined CA. There were no such platform to go and explore the talent. Even if we want to tell, there is no one giving any opportunity to us, and then there is no such platform where we can share the knowledge, where we can talk to the seniors. To look at a senior, we used to shiver, because we can't even able to spend time with the seniors. Very, very difficult. But now your chairman recently also he gave me an opportunity to chair a presentation of the students, and a wonderful day. Like, everyone did excellent job, and they were talking about blockchain. They're talking about new technologies. They're talking about work-life balance, time management, and kids of 20-21 years are talking about time management. Wonderful to listen. I was literally astonished the way they spoke about blockchain. I don't have such information. I know, but they gathered, they presented in the 10 minutes, 5 minutes of time. This is a wonderful opportunity to all of you. And don't think asking a question is wrong. Don't think, telling some, even if you tell wrong, no problem, because it is for your benefit. You can get back some feedback. And at times we also can learn from you, because you're updating your knowledge day by day. We were busy in our profession. We were busy in the life, family. Sometimes we may not get updated. And when we hear you and you tell something new, we feel great about you guys. And, because of a contract, sometimes, if we get some opportunity, we can immediately think, oh, this guy knows this. Let us refer this guy to that particular company, and he can be placed there. It all happens only when you come forward, talk, explain, show your talent, when there is a platform. If there is no platform, then you cannot. I appreciate Prashant Garu for this kind of an excellent opportunity for all Visakhapatnam students, because Visakhapatnam guys are a bit shy guys. Visakhapatnam, Vizianagaram, this area guys, when we go to Chennai, Bangalore seminars, when you see them, you feel like, why can't our guys can do this? We have bundle of talent, but a feeling. Why? Leave it. Come on, express. Go ahead, sir. I'm done today. I'm very happy also. Go ahead, sir, Prashant. Over to you.
Thank you, CA Danyamaraj garu, to sparing the time for our students and giving a valuable message to all of us. And I request Secretary Santosh Pavan, please go for the vote of thanks.
Hello, sir. Hello, everyone.
CA B. Radhakrishna garu is also joined recently. And Samna sir, good evening to you. And I now request Secretary for thanks.
C. Radhakrishna garu is there in the group. So it means CRK means C. Radhakrishna.
Yeah.
He pinged me. Might be knowing me. I'm sorry. I thought some student. Prashant garu, share his number. I'll talk to him, because he pinged me.
Sure.
Good to Nana Nadigaru. I need to talk to him once.
No problem. Definitely I will share this.
Yeah, sure. Carry on, Pavan. Santosh Pavana.
Yes,
Santosh. Yeah.
Respected Sikasa Chairman, CA Prashant Kumar, sir, respected session chairman CA Venkat Dhanyamaraju sir, our student speaker Pawan Sai, and all Sikasa committee members and my dear student friends, good evening to all. Just now we have experienced a wonderful spotlight session by our session chairman CA Venkat Dhanyamaraju sir. Sir, your deliberations are really very useful to all our students, and your valuable inputs very useful to all our students for in the future. And I would like to thank from the bottom of my heart, and I also extend my gratitude to the student speaker Pawan Sai for taking initiative to give a session on transfer pricing. On behalf of me, on behalf of Sikasa Visakhapatnam branch, I would like to thank for accepting our invitation even in your busy schedule, sir. I also extend my gratitude to the branch chairman CAS Murali Krishna sir, and also our Sikasa chairman CA Prashant Kumar sir for conducting this webinar. And I also thanks to our Sikasa committee members for organizing this webinar for the benefit of the students. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, Pawan. Both Pawans are rocking today.
So one more, Pawan is our vice chairman who is coordinating all these programs.
So all our Pawans, right, you know, when wonderful. That's why you are Prashant. You're happy.
Yes.
Everyone is taking care of that power. You are Prashant, you know, you're happy.
So all Pawans are with me.
Yeah.
Thank you, my dear members. Thank you.